My lesson today deals with reading with expression, sequencing of stories, and the different aspects of stories.
Okay, remember in the beginning of the term when we spoke about stories?
In the beginning of the lesson, we first recapped what a story was. We spoke about first the title of the story.
What do we do with the title?
We guess what the story is about.
Then we looked at what the words character, plot, and setting mean.
While we're reading the story, there's 3 things we look for.
Setting.
Yes, setting is one of them. What else?
The summary. It's the plot.
The plot, remember. Okay, so we have setting, plot. What are we missing?
Character.
How would a story be without characters?
When they're conscious about these things, then they read stories for understanding and not just to read it.
The setting, the plot, and the characters.
Very good. Well done. Let's give her 5 claps.
After we had recapped what the story was about, I read the first story to them.
The 3 little pigs. The 3 little pigs lived with their mother and father on the edge of the woods.
And I showed them the pictures that were in the book, just to make sure that they were listening and have their eyes on me.
It was the funniest thing they had ever seen. They laughed and laughed until tears ran down their face.
I asked them to tell me who the characters were in the story.
The baby pig and the middle pig and the biggest pig.
Okay, good. Who else? Kutso, tell us.
And the mommy pig. The wolf.
One more, guys. Who else?
The daddy pig.
Yes, they're missing the daddy pig. Well done. Okay. Then, what is our setting?
The straw house, the stick house, and the brick house.
But where is all of this happening?
In a forest.
Now, our plot. What is the plot?
The 3 little pigs lived with their parents at the edge of the woods.
It's important that they need to realize that the plot isn't retelling the story, but it's summarizing the story.
If your plot is longer than the story, then you have missed the plot.
When we were done with that, we moved on to reading the Roald Dahl's Revolting Rhyme.
The wolf who saw it licked his lips and said, "That pig has had his chips."
It's got a lot of similarities and differences, so it helps to do a lesson like that. And the rhyming also, the kids love it.
Then picking up the telephone, he dialed as quickly as he could the number of Red Riding Hood. "Oh, hello, Piggy. How do you do?"
When we were done reading it, I asked them again to tell me who the characters were in the story.
All right, now we're going to do the same as we did with the first story. Who can tell me who our characters are in this story?
Red Riding Hood and the 3 little pigs and the wolf.
Where is the setting for this story?
At the woods.
Okay, so we have the characters, we have the setting. What's missing?
The plot is missing.
I asked them if they knew what differences and similarities meant.
Now we're going to talk about similarities and differences. Who can tell me what those 2 words mean? Let's start with one of them. Who can tell me what a difference is?
The difference is like something that's not the same to another thing.
Okay, very good. A difference is if something's not the same. So what is the difference between Kamo and I?
Your clothes are not the same and you don't have the same hair.
Okay, now who can tell me what similarity means?
Something that has the same meaning.
That was what a synonym is. I'm looking for the word similarity.
It's something that is the same in the stories.
Okay, well done, Megan.
When we were done doing that, we moved on to comparing the 2 stories.
Who can tell me some differences between the story that I read the first time and the one that I read the second time?
In the first story, the wolf didn't eat the 2 pigs.
The reason why I used comparison is it teaches learners to read for details. It also helps them to remember the character, plot, and
Anything
setting
else?
because they're trying to identify those 3 in each story.
Now let's look at the similarities.
After we looked at the differences, we moved on to similarities.
The pigs did build their houses. That they both happened in the wood.
All right, so our setting was the same as well. So where is our main difference?
The plot.
Yes, in the plot, the stories were very different, especially the ending.
After we looked at similarities and differences, I moved on to sequencing.
All right, if I told you this story and I read all the pages in the wrong order, would it make sense to you? No. No? So do you think sequence is important? Yes. Who can tell me what sequence is?
Sequence is the correct order that you put it in.
So sequence is very important. As Megan said, it's the order in which things go.
I took the different parts of the story and stuck them on cardboard, and I muddled them up on the board, and then I got different learners to come up and help me to get it in the right order.
Boka here.
We first tried to identify the beginning and the end so that we had somewhere to start.
Is this the beginning of the story, guys? No. Definitely not.
A pigskin traveling case.
What part of the story is this?
It's the end of the story.
Then once we had the beginning of the story and the end of the story, we still had 3 parts of the story that we had to get in the right order.
What are those other 3 pages?
The middle of the story.
Okay, guys, so now we need to get it in order. We have our start and we have our end. Okay, so what happened before this one?
Put that one there.
And this one was about which pig? Hold up the number. Good. All right. And then which one? So who thinks it's wrong?
They first
Come
got
and
it
show us
wrong, but
what's wrong.
as we looked at the story, we saw it wasn't making sense.
Is this in the right order now? Yes. Okay.
Okay, once we got the sequencing right, I took away the last part, and
Gone.
they would have 5 minutes to come up with an ending.
Okay, you are going to be making up your own ending for this story. You cannot use that ending, and you cannot use the original ending of the story. So you need to be very creative and think of a different ending. I'm going to give you 5 minutes to brainstorm, and then I'm going to tell you to come up here and tell the rest of the class your ending.
And then I chose some of the learners to come and read their story to the rest of the class.
As his spit came out, Red Riding Hood was disgusted. To the wolf, say your last words. For killing 2 pigs, that's what you get. He shouted, "Ow!" at the top of his voice.
I was quite impressed with some of the stories, and some of them were very confusing. I wasn't actually sure what was going on.
A gigantic sword came and killed him. "Oh no," Red Riding Hood said. "My fruits are full of vomit." And a machine took his skin off.
In preparing for this lesson, you need to make sure that you know both stories very well and have practiced reading them out loud. A lesson like this takes a lot of effort, but it is worth it when you see the enjoyment on the learners' faces, and also to realize that you can combine a few concepts in one lesson, like the sequencing and the different aspects of a story, and also comparing 2 stories.